Welcome back. This is Toni Wade, the Compassionate Investor, and we're talking about how you build a business from scratch. Now, like I said, I've done a lot of businesses through the years, and the one thing I'm going to say on this first, when you're creating your business, you really want to do something that is in your wheelbarrow of being a part of your passion and your purpose. There's nothing against it, but you have to pick the right business that makes sense. You have to make sure it's something that is, of course, a need. Somebody was going to pay to have it, and you go into it with that intent. If you don't have anything that you're working with first, I would say just do your due diligence as far as looking at the industry that you're wanting to get into to make sure it's going to be a good fit for you. Perfect example, like right now I'm thinking, well, I'm not thinking, I am. I am going into assisted living, working with senior housing, because this is the market for that. In the next 7 years, we're going to be in an industry that has a great need. So once you identify something that is a need, you want to quickly get things set up. So I'm literally going through these steps I'm getting ready to tell you right now to set up my assisted living facility. So, but long story short, once you've made sure it is a good fit, there are 3 things that you're going to want to do. You're going to want to make sure that you're setting yourself up structurally correct. Now, I'm going to give a disclosure because I am not an attorney. I am not giving you any type of legal counsel. It is your responsibility to speak with somebody related to how you go about getting your structure and putting it in place. Now, I'll also say this, because if you've been in business if you're just now starting a basic business, it's all pretty much the same because you're new. You don't have a lot to protect. But if you've been in business for a very long time, you've got a lot of assets, you've got a lot of businesses, you have all of these other moving parts, then you should be looking at getting counsel on how best to structure your business. There are multiple people who have businesses that actually own their businesses. So, you know, that's a very complex structure. So you starting off, you're not going to need anything complicated like that. You just need something simple enough that you can follow to be able to get you to a state where you can actually run a business. Now, in every state, you are required to register that business. So after you get your fancy name, and I'm just going to tell you this, don't overly make it complicated trying to come up with the perfect name, because guess what? It could be 123 LLC and it works perfectly fine, because that's all you need to write the check to is 123 LLC. It all works the same. So don't like belabor it so much at the beginning on it has to be the perfect name. But once you get a name that you like, you're then going to go to your Secretary of State and you're actually going to record that name in their record. Now, I'll also say, because it's going back to making sure that you check out that that name is available, and that's what I typically do. Like right now, I told you I'm in the process of registering my new assisted living facility, and I've already checked. I already saw that the name that I like works. I've already taken care of my domain name. Like those are things that, you know, we're getting into the weeds. You don't necessarily need, but I need it for the type of business that I'm going in. So I'll say that as something you'll need to think about, but it's not required, and that's actually having that domain name available. But those are some of the things that I do up front, just so that I know I'm getting something that could exclusively be mine, and then now I'm going to go register it. So I also am not picking anything that's really long-winded, because who wants to type out a very long-winded LLC or a long-winded domain if you actually can get the domain? Now, once again, I'm saying websites, I use that very loosely, because everyone gets caught up with, oh, I need a website. Okay, yes, you want a website if you're talking about building a brand. So I would just say do that due diligence up front to make sure that the name you're picking is something that you can get and it's something that's short enough that people can remember. I will say this too. I have known most people to create a business that has 2 names. I heard that works really well. If it's just a 2-name thing, that works really well, like One Spot or Get Help. I say that because I know Get Help very well. But it's like having that 2-piece name. Those are easy to remember. So those are things you need to think about as you're thinking about your domain, getting that secure if you need to. And I'm saying it's not an end all. It only costs $10 to get a domain through GoDaddy. That's what I like to use. And then making sure it's something that you can find on the site. So once you now have a name, and you've thought through what it is that you want to do, you're going to go to the site on your Secretary of State for your state and you're going to search just to make sure that it's available. Once it's there, you're going to go ahead and register with the state. Now, personally, I like to register on the site on the state first because I know it's available. And once I register on the state, then I go get my EIN. Those are 2 critical steps as you are creating your business from scratch. So you'll get your Secretary of State, get that registered. Now every state is different. Here in the state of Missouri, because I love it, you can get an LLC for $50. You go to California, you're going to pay a lot for that same registration. So just depending on the state will dictate what you're going to pay for that registration. Then after you do that, you'll simply go to IRS and you'll register for your EIN. That is Employer's Identification Number. But once you get that EIN attached to that particular name, you have started the process. The only piece that you're missing is your operating agreement, because you will need just a generic operating agreement just to let them know who is doing what. If you're a sole proprietor, then it's just simply the sole proprietor and it's not as complicated. But when you're dealing with other things, it could change. Once again, I'm not an attorney. Feel free to seek out somebody to get guidance on how to get an operating agreement. But you will need to have an operating agreement so that you can be able to move to the next phase, which is to set up your bank account. Now, once you set up your bank account, because you're going to need those 3 items to be able to do that. Now, let me stress the importance of choosing the right bank. Once again, there's several options that you have. I like banks that like to work with me. So if you know of a bank that likes working with small business owners, credit unions are amazing. I love working with credit unions or a local bank that will help you build your business credit with them. But choosing the right bank is important. So make sure if it's too complicated for you, that's okay. You can have more than 1 checking account, but just go to your regular bank and just set up a business checking account. So at least you have your business set up, you got your EIN, you now have your checking account set up. That one piece that most people end up missing is making sure you set your books up. Now, I personally like using QuickBooks. That's what I've always used. Some people aren't big enough where they feel like they want to take on that cost. As long as you got a way to document your income coming in and your expenses going out, because it must be documented. You'll be doing yourself a disservice if you do not set that up properly. But those are the core pieces that you need to set up your business so that you can go to the next step. Now, when we come back, we'll be talking about specific